Good morning, everyone. Glad you could make it out to worship this morning. Sunday school this morning, we had 55. Anybody have a birthday this week? Birthday offering this morning? No birthdays? How about anniversary? Oh, we have an anniversary.
Good morning. It's so good to be together in the Lord's house. I'm thankful for those of you who knew what time it was this morning. I pulled in and thought there might be people here early, but that didn't happen. When it switches back to daylight time, there'll be people late, I promise. But glad you're here. It's a good morning. We're glad to have our visitors with us. We hope you find something good for your soul while you're here at Summers Baptist Church. And if you are back again, good to see you again. I can't do this morning without recognizing somebody special. And he don't want this, but I'm going to. Audie, private first class Marine Corps. Yeah, and Scott said, "Don't you dare call me in person." I said it's going to be tough on all of us. Next Sunday, we're going to recognize and honor all of our veterans. And somebody said, "Why didn't you do it this week?" Because Joel's going. He said, "Don't you do that without me." So that's why we didn't do it this week. It's going to be a good day in the Lord's house, and we're going to worship Him. Let's stand together, and after we have our opening prayer, let's stand together. Daylight savings time, I know it's young. We're going to have prayer, and after we pray, just take a moment and greet one another. All right? Let's bow together and pray. Bob Russell, do our opening prayer for us, please.
We
Amen. I'm glad it does too. One more this morning, dealing with Dottie Rambo song. Join me and help us sing. I think it's number 620 in your book if you want to turn over there. Number 620. The memory, Lord, and the realization, Father, that we could be in a lot worse off shape than we are. Lord, maybe things aren't going so well for us physically in this world, and things seem to bear on our mind and our heart and drag us down. But Father, help us to remember that spiritually we're winners. And Father, we've got a home in heaven that's waiting for us, where there's no more heartache or sickness or pain or death or dying, Father, but only you and the good things that you can provide for us. Lord, I pray this morning if somebody here doesn't have the realization of heaven as their home, Lord, if they're lost, I pray that today they'll repent and turn to you. Lord, they'll just turn from unbelief and from sin and turn to you, Lord. And Lord, I pray that they'll know you as Savior today. Help Brother Paul as he preaches. Thank you for the Spirit that we felt here today in the unity. Lord, I pray that you'll just help us to focus on you today. Bless the kids as they do their lesson today. Lord, I just pray that you'd be honored and glorified in everything that we do. Give us a heart to worship today, Lord. In Christ's name, I pray. Amen. All right. If you have a youngster first grade and under this morning, we'll let y'all be dismissed to children's worship this morning. The Spirit's headed that way, so don't follow.
Too much, isn't on yet? Well, I don't need to.
Put off.
Holly, I want to compliment you working on the sound booth today. I have a vantage point from up here. I see Joel up there. Y'all know Joel's kind of tense. So you didn't know that? I see Joel running back and forth, and he said, I look back there, man, and go, Holly, she's just lifting her voice up and singing. You got a full-time job, sister. Oh, it's been a good day. It was a good week last week. Samuel got saved, and he came down to
Still comes through that.
It's
because your monitor
last Sunday night. We had a lot of people at our hayride and Wiener Road.
It should.
Ozark
I don't know
Revival
if it-
did a bang up job. We had a lot of food. A lot of food left over, but we ate it. We ate good last. You know, if you keep Baptists eating, they won't fight. I've been one all my life. I know. Well, I'm sorry for Brother Hugh Bailey. Hugh was supposed to sing for us this morning, and he took a fall this week, and he was pretty messed up. I got to visit with him just a little bit yesterday, but he's ready to sing.
Yeah.
And y'all pray he'll get healed up and come back. I'm getting to that age where sometimes I forget stuff, and sometimes I drop stuff too. I'll get that when I need it. I run off from the house this morning and left my glasses. They're transitional, trifocals, really good for an old man like me. So everybody offered to loan me their glasses this morning. And I appreciate it, okay? I dug some old readers out of the desk, and I'll get by. If I put them on, I can't see y'all. If I take them off, I can't see my notes. So there's going to be a lot of going back and forth. But it reminded me of a story I heard one time
If it gets too
about this poor preacher, and he had to have all of his teeth pulled. And he immediately got a new set of dentures, and he came to church the first Sunday after having gotten the new dentures, and he only preached about 8 minutes. And they were kind of worried about him, so somebody inquired. He said, you know, I got these new teeth put them in. And he said, they hurt so bad, I just couldn't preach very well. So the next Sunday, he seemed to do better. He preached about 20 minutes. He said the teeth were still bothering him somewhat. He was adapting to them. Next Sunday, he preached an hour and 10 minutes. And they went to him and said, what happened? He said, I accidentally picked up my wife's teeth. I ducked. I'm afraid somebody shoot at me. This is pretty loud, Miss Holly. I'm hearing myself bad. I hate hearing myself. All right, well, y'all forgive me for that. I couldn't get by with that in a lot of churches. For the next several weeks, as the Lord leads, I want to preach some messages about people who came to Christ. You know, we use that phrase a lot, when I came to Christ. I hear that a lot. And we did, but I want to make something very clear. We will, and for those of us who have only came to Christ because he came to us first. It's his work. He said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men. He said, when the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, comes, he will guide people to Jesus Christ. So the only way we can be saved is by the Spirit dealing with us. There are a lot of people in the Scripture that Jesus went to with purpose. Individually, singled them out, and he went to them. But I started thinking about the ones who just came to Christ. And I'll be preaching about several of them. I want to preach from John chapter 4, and we're going to read just a portion of the chapter, verses 46 through 54. And this subject is about a man just referred to in the Bible as a nobleman. And we're going to learn as we go into this, that means he was a high-ranking government official. Now, the Romans were ruling the world at that time, the Roman Empire, of course. But my guess is he came out of Judaism. All right? So here he is. He's a high-ranking official in Judaism who was still under the rule of the Romans. And we find him in our verses coming to Christ. He came 16 and a half miles and walked from where he was to seek out Jesus. And he had a reason. Let's read these verses. John 4, verses 46 through 50. Let me stop and say one more thing. This is the second miracle in the Gospel of John that John records. John didn't record all the miracles that Jesus did. He recorded the first one, turning the water into wine at the marriage in Cana of Galilee. But Jesus did a lot of things in between these two miracles. He went back to Jerusalem, and we learned that he performed miracles there. He had a midnight conversation with a man by the name of Nicodemus. He met and purposely sought out a Samaritan woman at a well, and she became a follower of his. And he went back to where she was from, and many other people, because of her, and because Jesus went back to Samaria, many others had come to know Christ, and had come to know him personally. So I say that because I want you to know, Jesus hung out with a lot of fishermen, but he didn't fish very often. Right? He stayed busy doing his Father's work, the work his Father had sent him to do. So let's read John 4, beginning in verse number 46. So Jesus came back again into Cana of Galilee, where he had made the water wine. And there was a certain nobleman, high government official, whose son was sick at Capernaum, 16 and a half miles away. When he heard that Jesus was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought, which means he begged openly. He besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. So, this is in a crowd of people. Here's this man who's a high-ranking government official, and he casts all decor, all of his pride is gone. His son's about to die. And I want you to know that when a loved one is that close to the point of death, it brings us to our knees. It brings us to humility. Typically, all pride, all worry about what someone else might think is cast aside. And that's the way this man was. As he came and besought Jesus, he sought him out purposely. And he said, if you will, come down and heal my son. I want you to listen to Jesus' reply. Jesus said unto him, except you see, and by the way, that word you in the original language is plural. It would be like us saying y'all, okay? You all. He was speaking not just to this specific father, but he was speaking to all the crowd. He said, except you see signs and wonders, you will not believe. Now I want to remind you that in this era of Jesus' miracle-working ministry, he did it for a purpose. Watch me. He didn't do miracles so people would lift him up and exalt him and praise him as a miracle worker. He did miracles to say to the world, to confirm to the world that he was from God, that he was who he said he was. He did miracles because he didn't have the Word of God to substantiate what we have and what we know of him. So a lot of people came and followed him for the loaves and fishes, for the water into wine at Cana in Galilee, for healing other people and performing miracles at Jerusalem. And they're following Jesus everywhere he goes. Jesus said, y'all won't believe unless you see signs and wonders. And the nobleman said to him, Sir, come down. He's begging, lest my child die. Well, and Jesus said unto him, you go back home. Go your way. Your son lives. You like that? And the man believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way. You know how we know? He believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him? Because he did what Jesus told him to do. Alright? Jesus said, go your way, your son lives. I believe, but he didn't just sit there and say, I believe, please help me believe more. We covered that. He went, he followed the direction, the instruction, and the commands of Christ. What verse was that? Verse number 50? We got a few more to read. And as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, your son is alive. He didn't say, never would have thought it. He didn't say, how could this be? He didn't say, oh, what a miracle. I mean, I've heard of miracles, but now I've seen a miracle. He said, what time did it happen? All right. He said, he inquired of them the hour which he began to amend. Then they said yesterday about the 7th hour, which is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that people are listening. And listen to this. And the father knew that it was at the same hour in which Jesus had said unto him, your son lives. And he himself believed in his whole house. Amen. I want to talk this morning about 3 or 4 major headings. And it focuses on this nobleman. He's unnamed. But I want to talk first of all this morning about his faith in the power of Jesus. And it all began with this request that he made. You get a man who's willing to leave, lay down, risk everything he has, everything he is. And I'm telling you, if your child's about to die, it'll cause you to throw all of that aside. So he comes and he finds Jesus. He hears where Jesus was. He had heard what Jesus had been doing. And he comes out into the open with all of these people around, and he makes this request at this encounter. And he's very pointed. He's very forward. He didn't say, after I've never been in the presence of anyone like you, and you know, I'd like to get to know you better. He said, I want you to come heal my son. Amen. My son's about to die. Now I'll tell you something, listen. I am so thankful and grateful to God for the parents in our church who are leading their children to Christ. Amen. I give you all a hand in the name of Jesus Christ, because that's your job. Amen. This man was concerned about the physical well-being of his son. So much more should we be concerned about the spiritual well-being of our children and our grandchildren. Amen. So he comes down and pointed forward open request, because he had heard that Jesus could work miracles. He hadn't seen, but he heard about it, and he believed that he had the power to heal his son. Jesus almost rebuked him when he replied to what the man said. And honestly, I can't understand the logic in this, but Jesus wasn't always logical. In fact, he wasn't always so practical, okay? But he was spiritual because he was the Son of God. But the reply was, you all won't believe unless you see signs and wonders. And he's not, as I said earlier, he's not just talking to the nobleman, the high government officials directly, but this man, specifically, he's not looking for a sign. He's not interested in a sign. He just wants his son to not die. Now, I want to stop, and it's kind of a parenthetical part of my message today, but I want to talk about this whole signs and wonders thing, all right? Because it's become so prominent and prevalent in religion today. There are so many people who get hyped up because they hear about a meeting somewhere, or they hear about a person, usually somewhere, who is acclaimed as a healer or a miracle worker, has the ability to cast out demons and to cast out devils. And people, by their own nature, are attracted to that which is very flamboyant. All right, that's just our nature. All right, so people flock to those. And listen, I'm not here to talk down anyone today. I believe, if you read the Gospel of John and you get to the last chapter, he said there are many signs and wonders that Jesus did. But watch this. He said, but these are written. These are written so that you might believe in him. He didn't say you had to see them to believe in him. He said they're written down. Listen, I don't have to go watch somebody work a miracle to believe in God. It's written in the Word of God. And I see what the Bible says that he did, and I believe what he's still able to do in the name of Christ. And because of that, I believe in him. I don't believe in a lot of people, but I believe in him. So that's what this rebuke is about. Jesus is speaking directly because they only come. He said, unless you see, you won't believe. By the way, they could have believed without seeing. They could have chosen to believe without seeing. The proper belief is not in the miracle. It's not in the sign. It's not in the wonder. And by the way, Jesus rebuked this whole generation. He said, all you want is to seek a sign and to see a sign. I think so often, and I'll tell you both sides of this, all right? People have a need and a want to be involved in something that's very, very emotional. Okay? And they seek that out when it comes to public display and worship. And on the other hand, for most Baptists, and I'm not saying that about our church, for most Baptists, I've been around, you can't even hardly get a holy run out of them, all right? And if somebody lifts a hand in praise to God in the church, there are people going, they're going bad on us, they're going bad on us, all right? I'm just saying we've got to find a happy medium, and when it's expression of what the Spirit of God is moving inside of us, and it's biblical, but if it's just for a show, and it's all about emotion, sit on it and keep your mouth shut. Amen. It's what Jesus was teaching us. I'm sorry I had to preach that, but it's there. That's the lesson he wanted them to learn. So this condemnation is against people who think they or others need to see a miracle, a sign, or a wonder to be close to Jesus. Well, second thing. Faith in the promise of Jesus. I am amazed at the persistence of this high government official. I mean, Jesus basically calls him out in front of everyone. I mean, calling out all of them who were there. But he said, except you see a sign and wonder, you won't believe. And he didn't skip a beat. I don't think he waited 10 or 15 minutes and had to think it through. I don't think he got angry and had to get over it. He said, no, but if you'll come, you can heal my son. And since this man persists, because this man
it was a great demonstration of his faith. Not because Jesus needed it. I mean, Jesus taught in several instances with several examples about persistence in prayer. He told that story about that wife, and her husband was going up to a case before a judge, and she wanted favor of the judge. She went up and she kept banging on his door. Listen, I want you to hear me. I want you to hear my husband's case over and over again. And I'm paraphrasing loosely. You know what the judge finally said? I'm going to have to do something about this because she ain't never going to leave me alone until I do. Now, why would he? And he taught us two other lessons. I don't have time to go into about that. Same persistence. Why? Is it because he needs our persistence? No, because he wants us to pray and to keep on praying. This man was persistent. No, I don't want to see his son. If you come down, you can heal my son. And he did believe the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, as I said, because he left. He didn't say, let's stop at Cracker Barrel and have some lunch. It's more than a day's walk. It's probably 2 days walk to get back to Capernaum where he came from. And while he's on his way, I'm guessing about halfway. Because at the same time Jesus told him to leave, his son got better. He was mended. That's what the Bible said. And so his servants start walking to where they know he is. He starts walking back to go see his son, whom he believed is healed. Halfway along the way, they meet in the middle. And by the way, there was no how-to formula. You have to do this, you have to do that. Jesus said, go thy way, thy son is healed. So he met them, and they're rejoicing. He said, your son's alive. He didn't say, never would. He didn't say, I'm amazed, I'm surprised, I can't believe it happened. When he left, he believed his son was healed. Amen. He said, what time? He said, 1 o'clock yesterday. He said, that's exactly the same time Jesus said he was healed. Right. Someone has said, I copied this into my notes, that leaders understand orders. When Jesus said go, he went. Right. More importantly, there is faith in the person of Jesus. The revelation of this miracle was by the servants on the way home. And from the servants, the Father found that the miracle, as we said, coincided with that time. But the response to this miracle is what really lifts me up, all right? It said in those last few verses, he said, verse 53. So the Father knew that it was at the same hour when Jesus said, thy son lived. And he believed, and his whole house believed. And he believed, and his whole house believed. I want to tell you something. Listen. When we share as parents and grandparents, the times when we've seen God move big in our lives, it gives our children and grandchildren a cutting edge, a sharpness, because they're looking for those times in their lives. I look back with my own children and I say, do you remember when such and such happened and we prayed and God did this? And I'll share with you just almost miraculous interventions of God in my life. And I think when we recall those things and remember those things, it influences and it affects those around us. Do you know what the problem is? So often we just sit with our mouths shut. We don't ever tell anyone about the greatness of God. You think he went back home and was quiet? He went back home. My son's alive. My son was about to die, and he's alive now. And when he told this story, I went to where Jesus was. Jesus said, go home. He's healed. I met him halfway. He was healed. Glory to God, I believe in him. And everybody else said, I believe I will too. Amen. It's good. because I said it, that's just good. Somebody said, I copied this, they moved from wonder, W-O, wonder to worship. There's a lot of people that need to move from wonder to worship. When you experience the mighty hand of God in your life, it can cause that. The man and his whole household believed. Why is this miracle so important? Well, I want to close today and just share with you 4 or 5 things, all right? First of all, we need to learn from this lesson that faith is necessary to please God. Hebrews 11 verse 6 says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And he that cometh to God must believe that he is. Who's the he? God. What does that he is relate back to? He said, I am. And when we believe him, we say, yes, he is. All right? It's just that simple. It takes faith in the person of God. Not in his power. We believe in his person, first of all. And then we learn also from this that distance is no barrier whatsoever to God's power. I remember when my kids started growing up, there wasn't but one good thing that came from Joel being able to drive. He got to run the other 2 around. Wasn't that great? Finally got one with a driver's license. But I remember when he started going out, I'm sitting there and I'm worried. I'm on the fire department and I'm listening to these calls. Every time the pager goes off, every time the scanner goes, oh, today my son. And I'm worrying myself to death. I call people and I go to these scenes out of my jurisdiction just because I'm afraid. And you know what I finally had to learn? God's able to take care of my child better than I'm able to take care of my child. It doesn't make any difference if he's in the driveway. It doesn't make any difference if he's somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. But when he was, I usually found that. By the way, that happened more with him than it did. Those of you who knew, you know. There's another lesson we got on this. Sickness is no respecter of age or persons. Enough said. Jesus, the first miracle he performed in John's Gospel was turning the water into wine. And he proved to them that he had power over life in general. But now, he proved he was true. I want to ask you to bow your head this morning, close your eyes. And I want to begin by asking you some questions today. This is a day where you need to search your heart. And you need to ask yourself some questions. The first question that you need to ask yourself, am I sure that I am a child of God? This man wasn't when he came. He heard Jesus. He was intrigued about Jesus. He believed what he had heard. But just believing what he heard wasn't enough. So he should be salvation. I'm so amazed at the immediate obedience of this guy. And I know people, I'm not saying people here, may be some people, but people who need to respond in obedience to what God is leading them to do. And they pull back and push back against that so much. Listen, if God tells you what to do, if you want to find peace and you want to find joy, to respond affirmatively to what he said. I would imagine that there are people here that are praying for someone who's lost, friend or family. And if you feel led to come to this altar this morning and pray for them, I think that's a good thing because it opens the door for maybe someone else to feel comfortable about it. If you're here this morning and you're not sure, maybe you were baptized when you were younger, but you're not sure of your salvation. Here's what I want to tell you. I want you to come to Jesus. Heavenly Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for the Spirit that is on you. Thank you for the promise, Father, that it accomplishes your purpose. We look at our feeble efforts to try to put it forth and explain it, and we don't understand, Father. I don't understand why you called me in the ministry. I'm grateful for it, but it's not about me or them, it's all about you. So Lord, now let your Spirit do his work. May we be attentive to him, do to you, and be obedient as this high official. All stand together and sing it. In the garden. Ask somebody if you know you're saved, even if you think they are. Ask them, do you know you're saved? Ricky and I do that all the time. We ask our children, we ask our grandchildren, do you know for sure you're saved? We're not trying to plant that. We're trying to give them an avenue of assurance. Because when they reaffirm it, it gives them that blessing of assurance. All right? Well, thank you for listening and being attentive today. You're pretty good with your glasses. Let me go ahead and let our ushers come forward. Whoever's going to take up the offering today, you all come. And while we're doing that, let me make some prayer requests that I know of. Then if you have a prayer request that you need to mention, do that. We pray for our law enforcement, for Clem Tollett, Miss Marilyn, Charlie Washington, for Lonnie Cantrell. Any update that we need to know about Lonnie? Nothing yet?
He doesn't find out what we're going to do
All right, thank you. I keep praying for my grandsons and their family, the Wood family, Miss Joyce Contrast. Pray for my parents, yeah. Pray for Miss Mary Hoosier, Miss Sullivan, Sarah Snodgrass, and good from her service. Good to see Merle Christian today. Pray for Joan Ellen, Austin Crawley, Anna Cheatham's recovering well. Vicky, probably going to be baby, probably going to have some treatments along with her surgery. Pray for her. Jennifer, any update on Jennifer? Just, we need to keep praying. All right, keep praying for Jennifer. Mandy, however you pronounce her last name, her mama sent me. Pray for Mandy B. She's having surgery this week, so it's Mandy B, all right? The Carl Reeves family, the Bartholomew family, the Barker family, the Adair family, the Jordan family, and the Paul Reeves. Keep praying for Diane Howard's mother, Nora Arnold. She's still in the hospital, but she's doing better. She's got the record. Thank you. Miss Joyce's daughter, Kelly Shelley Schultz. Her surgery was rescheduled, and it is the 9th. Any other prayer requests? Yes? All right. Tell me the name. Abel and Amy. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it. The family of Virgie Lee, thank you. Mike Davis. The family of Mike Davis. I heard you said that. And you're older than I am. Anyone else have a prayer request? Yeah.
Jessica Kent, my niece, mom's granddaughter, was in the hospital yesterday for 12 o'clock. She has a big wound in the leg.
We have a friend, he's an ag teacher at Centerport, I think. And he's also a Baptist preacher, and he pastors a church down there. They had a little baby yesterday, the day before we had to be taken to children. His name's Wheaton, if you think about Wheaton's stuff. Austin and Joan Albany and Paul Crawley, the great grandson. Anybody else? Yes, Holly, who's going at? Oh, yes, Dan, just speak up, sir.
Because of Billy Davis, we had to talk to blood cancer. Found out about it. Used to be my prayer. I'd like to thank the church for praying for me. I had my cancer checkup for this year, and everything's good.
Amen. Amen. Lord. Anyone else before we pray? All right, let's bow our heads and pray and exalt the Lord. John, over to you. quick announcements and then we'll be dismissed. I want to remind you, we have 3 groups that meet on Sunday afternoon. We have the divorce recovery group, a group, share group, and then a general Bible study. One of our deacons who is gifted Bible teacher, Brother Beetle Bailey, teaches that. They meet at 5 o'clock. Wednesday nights are our Awana clubs and our youth meeting, and we're in the book of Romans chapter 8 in our adult Bible study. So hope you can come if you haven't been coming. It's in the bulletin, get that. November the 14th, next Sunday, is a Haitian school student offering. If you support your Haitian student by the month, if you do that, next Sunday we're going to honor our veterans. I mentioned that already. November the 21st, I didn't put it in the bulletin, but Trini and Tommy are getting married on Sunday afternoon right here at the pub. And she sat back there hiding in the garden. She's waiting, right? And you're invited. I assume there's an announcement about it on this board in the foyer. Anyway, that's at 2 o'clock. November the 23rd, that's a Tuesday night, is our annual Thanksgiving praise and testimony service and church-wide Thanksgiving meal. We're going to start that at 6 o'clock in the evening. We're going to do the praise and testimony service first, and then we're going to end afterwards. But listen, if you all are worried about gaining weight, just adopt my whole ideal about this. From Halloween through the Super Bowl, just don't worry. Just eat what you want. I mean, that's only from October through February. I mean, if it's going to kill you then, I'm going to die with a smile on my face. Christmas baskets. We do Christmas baskets for some of our golden age people every year. Sue wants to get started. Next week there's going to be a list out there. Let me tell you, it's out there now. Is it here? Out here. If we donate things like washcloths and hand lotion and stuff like that, we'd like to get those done by the last Sunday in November, which is the 28th. And we're going to do our annual hanging of the green service the last Sunday in November. So if y'all go by, if you want to get 4 washcloths or whatever, just write your name down beside it and do that. Hey, I want to shout out on behalf of Joel and me and Becky. We want to give you our thanks. First of all, I think I mentioned it last week, but sometimes I forget, all right? Thank y'all for blessing us on our anniversary.